All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started here with my presentation. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the CSS pseudo classes and pseudo elements. So let's go ahead and start here and figure out what are CSS pseudo classes. All right, so it says that a CSS pseudo class is a keyword added to a selector that specifies a special state of the selected element or elements. Now, what you really need to pay attention to here is this line that says specifies a special state. So when we use a CSS pseudo class, what we're trying to do is alter the state of our selected element. And we'll go ahead and take a look at some examples here in a second, explain what I mean. All right, so let's take a look at the syntax. So what we have here is we have our selector, which is our maybe our anchor tag or our div tag. It can be really any HTML element that you want to alter, right? And then we have this single colon here, which is important to have because that's what kind of different or separates the selector and our pseudo class. And then we have obviously the pseudo class here, and then we have our generic property and value like we do in normal CSS. So let's go ahead and take a look at some examples here. All right, so we've got the CSS pseudo class link. That's what we're going to be taking a look at. And it says that this code is going to basically change the color to red of any unvisited links on your page, right? So if the user hasn't clicked on it yet, or you haven't clicked on a link and somebody else has injected this code into their website, then the code or the unvisited links that you see will all be red. So once again, we have our selector, and then we have our single colon for our pseudo class, and then we have the pseudo class itself, the color, which is our property, and the value, which is red. All right, let's take a look at example 2 real quick. So very similar to what we had before, another CSS pseudo class. This time we're looking at the opposite of the link, which is the visited. So any visited links on your page will have a color of red, right? So once again, we have our anchor tag, we have the single colon, our pseudo class, then we have the property and the value. All right, let's go ahead and hop out of this and jump into how many pseudo classes exist. Well, as of now, on W3 School's website, there are 31 pseudo classes listed. And some of these you may have already used, but chances are that you haven't used all 31, or maybe you didn't even know that 31 existed. I certainly know that I didn't know 31 existed. So obviously this presentation isn't going to teach you all 31, but you could go to W3 School's website and learn a little bit more. So I encourage you to do so. All right, now let's jump to what pseudo elements are. So it's a similar definition to what pseudo classes are, but a little bit different. So it says a CSS pseudo element is a keyword added to a selector that lets you style a specific part of the selected elements, right? So the important part on this definition is lets you style a specific part of the selected elements. Before we were changing the state, this time we're changing the style. So it's important to kind of understand the syntax because it is a little bit different between the two. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so once again, we have our selector, and this time instead of a single colon, we have to use 2 colons or a double colon to space out between our selector and our pseudo element. Also notice that on pseudo classes and pseudo elements, there are no spaces between these colons and the selector or this colon and the pseudo element. You don't want to have any spaces in between them. And then we have our generic property and our value. All right, let's look at an example here. So this time we're going to be looking at the CSS pseudo element first line. So essentially what we're going to be doing is styling the first line of this paragraph tag right here. We're going to make the color yellow, and we're going to change its font to a small caps. Now note that this pseudo element can only be applied to block elements, and that's mostly because the computer needs to be able to make a decision of what the first line is, and if it's not in a block format, it's not displayed in a block format, it's hard for the computer to do so, and you probably get incorrect results. All right, let's take another look at an example here, example 2. So this time we're going to be looking at the first letter pseudo element. So we have our similar syntax. We've got our p tag, our double colon, no spaces in between p and the first letter. Now, what this is going to do is change the first letter of this paragraph tag to the color orange and increase its font size to this double extra large. And once again, this pseudo element can only be applied to block elements. Keep moving on. All right, a last example of these. We have this time the first letter and the first line being combined. So just like before, what we're going to do here is we're going to take this p tag and we're going to take its first letter and we're going to color it orange and increase the font size. And at the same time, we're going to take that same exact p tag and we're going to take its first line and make that color green, and we're going to change its font to the small caps like we did in the example prior. All right, let's go ahead and look at how many pseudo elements exist. Well, as of now, once again on W3 School's website, there are 5 pseudo elements listed. Now, these are pseudo elements that I had never used before, and I really didn't even know they existed. So it would definitely be good to go to W3 Schools and learn more about these, as what I'm teaching you is merely an introduction and helping you understand that they do exist. So I do urge you to go to W3 School's website and check these out. All right, so let's hurry and take a look at some examples that I have in CodePen. They're in fact pretty much the same exact examples that we talked about in that presentation, but I just want to let you see exactly what happens with this code. So here in CodePen, we're going to be taking a look at the pseudo. Let's go ahead and change to pseudo classes first. All right. So what we have here, all of these are, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different pseudo classes we'll take a look at. So once again, we've got our link here, and that's going to make this color red. And as you can see down here in the corner, we have a red link that has not been clicked. Now here on this visited link, after I click on this, it would turn green, but in this case, because the link doesn't work, we're not going to get that same effect. But just know that this code would turn it green. So see, if I click on it, I come back, it's not going to change because the link didn't work. All right, now the mouse over link here, just like we've done before in our weather website, on our navigation anchor tags, if I hover over this, it turns to a hot pink color. When I move away, it goes back to red. And our last one is the selected link. So basically what this is going to do is, if it's an active link, or if you can use some JavaScript, or kind of like we did with our weather website, if you put that active class on there, when it's being used, now I'm clicking on this link and not letting go yet. As it's being activated, it's going to change to a blue color. So this is really nice to make your website a little bit more usable and user-friendly so they can understand where they are on the page at all times. Okay, let's look at some CSS pseudo elements. And once again, these examples we've already kind of seen, but it's important to see them here in CodePen as well. So let's take a look at the first line example here. So essentially what this is going to do, just like I said before, is take the first line of this paragraph tag here, and it's going to change its color to red and variate the font to a small caps. Now if you look down here, you can see that that's clearly the case. We've got small caps and red lettering. All right, let's go ahead and put that back. All right. Now this time we're going to be looking at the first letter. So now you can see down here that our font color is black except for that first letter, and its font style is clearly different than what we're seeing up here. It's no longer small caps. It's actually the same font style of the regular text. Now it's just larger and a different color. Okay, we'll look at the before tag. Now what this before tag does is it basically will insert anything before this p tag that you want. So for whatever reason you wanted to insert something before that p tag, this is the one you would use. Now, currently I have the content as the copyright symbol, but if I wanted to, I could change to the $sign, and that'll inject there. I could change it to also the pound symbol, and it's going to put it there. So it's just a handy way of putting something before the code, and I'm sure there's many more uses for it. Go back here. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the exact opposite of the before, which will basically take this and inject something after the p tag has already ended, right? So this time, once again, we're looking at the copyright symbol. If I wanted to, I could put in the and symbol, right? So now that's going to put it all the way at the very end. And notice I haven't styled it anyway, I'm just changing the content. Okay, so finally, let's take a look at what the selection pseudo element does. So what this is saying is it's not necessarily targeting a specific tag. In fact, it's targeting the entire web page right now, or any of the text or elements that I can select. So what happens with this is when I select all of this, notice how it doesn't just do a blue color like on your normal browsers, and in fact changes the font color to green and makes the background color yellow. So this is kind of a handy way that you could allow your users to select text and have the colors align with your color theme on your website, which is pretty cool. So as I said, guys, this is definitely just an introduction to CSS pseudo classes and pseudo elements. Of course, hopefully by now you understand how to write them and you understand at least a few of them, and how you could use them in your work. But definitely go to W3 Schools and check out the full list of CSS pseudo classes and pseudo elements so that you can get a better feel. And once again, I'm super glad that I was able to share this presentation with you, and I hope you guys have a great day.